live streaming, just so everyone is aware. And we do have a paper passing around. Oh, that's I was gonna turn that down, for people to put their name down. So I know Carrie has printed a good amount of information here, and I have some ideas. I'll go last.
So is it okay if I paint some of these out?
Please, sure.
And, yeah, we got a whole bunch of folks
Yeah,
here.
you guys can come on up to the table. Thank you for being here.
What are we deciding? Who we have to decide? To look at the group.
Yeah, so we have regional planning here tonight. We have our health department, we have soil and water conservation, we have our economic development, we have Audie Cordell, our county administrator, and we have Tony Vogel from our utilities department. And so we're going around the county, right, working on our land use plan. We stopped by here a month ago, I think, and started the conversation with you guys. Since then, we've been to a number of townships and a couple of villages and had really productive conversations. This was one of the more productive ones because you guys are interested in figuring out, how to grow your community in a way that makes sense for you. But as we talked about, allows your seniors to have a place to go, allows your kids to have a place to move into, and allows for some residential growth. So we had a really good conversation last time, and I appreciate the council and you, Shar, putting that together. When we left that meeting, the questions that we put to your group were, how much do you want to grow, and what kind of growth do you want to see, right? So I'm assuming that this is going to answer those questions.
Not a safe assumption. This is Carrie's.
Okay, all right.
And her efforts
All right.
are very appreciated because I appreciate that she takes this initiative. Like I said, I do have some ideas about residential growth and other proposed growth ideas, but I would like to go last. So Heather and Jeff can definitely speak as to their ideas and what they would like to bring to the table.
So I happened to take a look at this a couple of weeks ago with Carrie. We were here and she was like, these are some of my ideas. And I hadn't really put much thought into anything specific. And what I really appreciate about what she's done here, and boy, you can tell she's worked for the village for 20 years. Man, she is organized. What I appreciated most was she's looking at vacant land and seeing how it can develop. And she's planning on the growth that she's planning is feasible. It's not, oh no, we're going to double in size in 10 years. It's more like we're looking at a 25% growth within the next 4 or 5 years, and then maybe a 45% growth after that as you go. And I think that's,
Doable.
it's doable, right? What we have to address at this point is what if we have just the 10% growth? Right now, we can't take on 10% growth. And so how is that gonna, and what helps? I think my biggest concern is what helps can we get? Because we're a little village and we don't have a lot of money. What's available out there to help us get our sewage plant going? Maintenance, there'll be work for the streets, and so keeping and maintaining what we have as well as taking on new growth, new homes or new streets.
Sure. Yep, those are all
So I
good
don't want to
questions.
repeat myself a lot.
No,
So
that's good.
So my thoughts are kind of along similar line. We don't have the infrastructure in the village for municipal water growth, for sewage growth. We're really limited in where we're at. So we're kind of in a position where we're really stuck. So if our sewer system's already maxed out, our water supply is maxed out. We don't have room for any plans for expansion of those. At this point, our only option would be to pass that along to the residents, those costs, which in my opinion is not feasible at all. So you know, and how can we manage, what we have better, you know, some of the, I get a lot of comments in regards to our water quality, things of that nature. So I don't know, kind of like Heather said, is there something the county can help with, even if it's just guidance or,
Well, not just at a county level, but are there state programs or federal programs for small towns in rural communities that may be hard hit economically to keep the infrastructure sound?
Um, So I'm gonna turn back here to these guys. You know, does this qualify as a Appalachia? And are there grants available? Tony, you're nodding your head, so I'm assuming you know
Yes.
something about that.
Yes, there's a lot of different opportunities for funding, the USDA, the EPA. And a lot of those sometimes you can get, if your income bracket for your village is lower, you can get principal forgiveness. So on top of that, you get 50% principal forgiveness. So it's $1 million, 500 of it they forgive, and you have 500,000 for a 20-year loan. So there's a lot of opportunities out there. We just got to kind of figure out what it is that we put as packages, because you can put a package that would include the design and construction in it. So where you get a whole kind of package out there. This is what we need to do kind of thing. So the good start is trying to figure out what you guys want to do as far as where you want to be, because that helps you design your wastewater facility, for instance. They make I'll say a package plant that you can just bring in off a trailer and just put it in place, connect it in, and you're good to go. It's a lot of industry that does that. Same thing with the water plant. When I was talking to your operator last time I was here from the water plant, there may be some opportunities there that you have the water with the wells that you have, but we're not pumping out of them enough. That's some things we'll have to look at. And some of the things, like as far as this map of development, would be nice to know where your infrastructure is at, to see if you can just tie right into it. Then it makes it a lot easier as far as construction for the developer, which then they can help get us to the other side of expanding stuff. So
how do we work with, so obviously the county has a vast amount more of resources and knowledge and expertise than we do. How can we borrow your expertise
Yeah, well,
to get there?
yeah, the whole point
Yeah.
of this whole exercise countywide is that we can answer questions like that,
Wonderful.
right? So, the whole premise is we know growth is coming, we want to manage the growth. How do you want to manage the growth, and how can we be helpful in doing that? And that's why all these folks are here tonight to kind of marshal all those resources to help you and every other village and all the townships to get where you need to go. And so we talked last time about, if you don't want to grow, you don't need to redo your infrastructure. But you can't grow unless you do, right? And so that's why we asked the question: how big do you want to be? When do you want to be there? And what does that look like? And those answers then turn into Tony and his group helping to figure out how we can, what does the water look like? What does the sewer look like? What kind of funding opportunities are there? And we'll be side by side with you. We're not putting our money into it, because then we'd have 13 townships and 13 villages all saying, "Hey, what about us?" But we are certainly want to be at the table to help with Tony's expertise, his team. Again, all the regional planning, health department, anybody that can help. That's why we're here. So, given that, if you didn't have to worry about water and sewer, what would you want to do for growth?
So personally, I would like to see some. I would like to see some fresh growth, and let's see what opportunities there are. I would love to see Main Street Amanda revitalized. I would love, that's fine. So, we are in a condition now where you drive down Main Street Amanda and it's really dilapidated and run down. I'd love to see some revitalization, some community efforts. Part of that were inhibited by property boundaries, right? But in a perfect world, there have been some amazing communities local. Trying to think of some up north, Pleasantville and up north, that have been able to revitalize and bring
Sure.
some.
Pythopolis.
Yeah, and bring
I drive
exactly.
through almost daily.
Yeah, and bring some youth and vigor and excitement and things like
Businesses
that.
and, economic growth that way.
Yeah.
Small businesses equal jobs.
So, right, so downtown revitalization is certainly one of our strategies and one that I think is totally appropriate for the village here. So yeah, we can work with you on that.
With that, I would assume we would need somehow more local housing, whether that is subdevelopments, whatever. We would need a larger community to do that.
So, right. So there's a couple things in play, right? When you grow, you expand your revenue stream, right, your tax base, which allows you to invest in things like your roads, like your sewer, like downtown revitalization. You'll have options. Another thing that is in play is when we talk to Amanda Township, they're interested in doing cooperative economic development with the village. And recently become aware of a potential commercial development outside of city limits that seems unlikely that the city can get to through annexation.
Is that past 22?
I'm not actually sure. I'm not really great with the geography just yet.
That's okay.
But the city of Lancaster couldn't get to it through annexation.
No. It's just outside your village.
Oh, okay.
But there's a landowner between the village limits and where that property would be that probably is not willing to change.
We've encountered that.
Right. So,
Yes, there has been a recent development with a landowner. I think it's probably the same that you're
Could be.
speaking of, where they had, in 2020, did not want to be a part of annexation. And now, just recently, within the last 10, 12 days, there's been a change.
So through annexation, you can grow and you don't have to necessarily partner with the township on that. There are other tools that you can use, like Community Development Authority or New Development Authority. Anthony, help me on that.
You can also do a JED.
Right. Well, so JED would be in partnership with the township.
Yeah.
But as they grow outside of their current borders, they can put a CDA on anything, right?
Yeah.
As long as the developer agrees to it and generate property taxes, income taxes,
Additional fees.
additional fees,
revenues,
right?
um,
So
CDA is Community Development
authority, right? And so what it is, it's a tax overlay, basically. You say, we're gonna have this developer come in and build 100 homes. Okay. And that neighborhood is going to have a different tax structure than the rest of the village. They're gonna have incremental property tax that we're gonna give to the schools, right? Because they're gonna freak out if you bring in 100 families.
Right.
And you can put an extra income tax or some other, there's all kinds of different, you can get really creative with it. And the people that move in there will, pay those extra taxes. It does create a little bit of haves and have-nots, but that money is important to what you want, the other things you want to do. Outside the city limits, in places that you're not going to be able to get to, if there is commercial growth, the JED, Joint Economic Development District, between you and Amanda Township, will allow you to collect income taxes and share them with the township. Now, most JEDs that I've heard about, read about, seen, participated in are 80-20, right? 80 would go to the township, 20% would be you guys, but all you're doing is collecting taxes.
You don't have to provide any services.
No.
or-
Utilities.
Nope.
So devil's advocate, what's the advantage for the township then to partner with the
They get
village?
80% of income tax that they would not otherwise get. So if you have 10 jobs, 20 jobs, you get $50,000 each. Your current income tax is 1%.
Yes.
They get 80% of whatever that math comes out to, which they don't have the ability to put an income tax on, so they would never see that money.
The townships don't in fact have the same ability as municipalities.
Absolutely not.
That's an interesting thought.
Right. So if you look at doing some kind of partnership with the township on commercial development that happens outside the city limits, and you look at using some kind of tool, right, community development authority or some other tool to generate incremental revenues on any growth that happens on your borders as you annex, and you can take care of the schools, you can take care of the fire department, you can do your roads, but then you can start reinvesting in your downtown, you can, whatever it is you see fit. So, go back to the question. How much do you want to grow? Right? What?
So in conversations that I've had with people, and you know, I've been hesitant on growth.
Yeah.
I love this small town village. I'm from the big city of Columbus. And in conversations that I've had with people that have been here for decades, they are hesitant. Most people that I've spoke with are very hesitant. There are a few that are receptive to the idea, but like I said, most people within the village that I've spoke with like the idea of our small village, and everybody knows what each other had for dinner last night. And, you know, the dog's name and the puppy and all of that. So I think for me, a small amount of growth, I really like the idea of an annexation or growth outside of our limits and a partnership with township. We already have some partnerships with township over things, maintenance, salt, you know, just little things like that. So I really like that idea to appease to the community.
Let me throw out one other thing. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're fine.
So when you talk to Jennifer Friel, right, who's the manufacturing facility here, the biggest challenge she has is employees. There's not enough of them, and you know, we're investing incredibly in our workforce development center to get people ready to go work for her and for others, right? And she's deeply appreciative of those efforts, and then says, where are they going to live? Or how are they going to get to work, right? So we're doing this whole transportation thing, trying to, you know, improve how we can help people move around. But if we can build some workforce housing here, that makes those jobs easier to fill and lifts the economy up because those people are going to be spending their money here in Amanda, right?
I love the idea of some young families coming in and providing homes and jobs, and it does bring back to revitalizing our Main Street and other areas. Of course, for me, the big thing is we need a well and we need a waste treatment center. I know we're imagining that those were not needs.
Right.
I know that we were wanting that kind of answer,
Well,
but I just keep going back to
no,
that.
I get it. And so one answer kind of dictates the other,
Right.
right? When we say we want to upgrade the water facility and upgrade the sewer facility, okay, to what level? How much, right? And so only by having at least an idea of where you want to be can we say, okay, we know now that they need this much more water and this much more sewer capacity. And so we can design to that and we can build to that. And here's, the costs and here's all the money that we can bring in from different governmental entities. But if we just go out and say, hey, they want to grow, let's build something new, they're like, yeah, how much are they going to grow? Right?
Have you, in your experience, seen any villages, for lack of better words, municipalities, successfully engage the community in conversations like this? My 2 cents is we should engage the community, get feedback from the community. What does the community as a whole want? However, it seems that unless it's on Facebook, our community doesn't want to get engaged.
Yeah, it's always a challenge.
May I interrupt?
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of disagree. I think that if we did put it out there on the water bill and on Facebook, God bless Facebook, that we could create interest and attendance. It doesn't mean I'm right. It doesn't mean he's right. I think that we could get community involvement if we're talking about growth. If
You're
we put
optimistic.
that out there. I am optimistic. You know that.
Yeah, and I think, what would probably happen if you get 100 people in a room, you're going to get the people who are passionate in one direction or the other, right? People who are just kind of living their lives and doing their jobs and raising their kids, they're busy doing that, and they don't really, you guys, that's why we hired you guys, right? People who are hard, like, hell no, never, not going to happen here, and people who are like, hey, yeah, that'd be kind of cool. You're going to get a lot more of this. And that's, we've seen that, right? And we have, I think, been a little bit successful in lowering the temperature in those conversations. It's, you always get someone in there who, I had one meeting where a lady asked me how much the New Albany company was paying me, and had another one the other night who was just shaking her head the whole night and just knew for sure that we were all, up to some evil.
Right.
And you'll have that.
Actually, we have it every time a new business wants to come to town. Every time.
That people just jump up and say no way.
There's always a person who is opposed because
Sure.
they're afraid their lives are going to change, right? I work a full-time job. I started sitting in this seat a month ago. If I had my chance a month ago, knowing everything that's gone on this last month, I probably would have just kept working my job and going there every day. But the thing is it's going to happen. We're going to keep having kids. We're going to keep having grandkids. Our parents are going to age and not be able to take care of their homes. The future is going to happen, whether we're opposed to it or not. The thing that we really, really want to do is grow smart.
Right.
I want my kids, if they want to raise their children in this community, I want them to raise their kids in this community. They need every opportunity to do that.
Yep.
But it has to be approached very, very systematically, and it has to make sense, even to the person who's only working their 40-hour job, coming home, petting their dog, wanting to watch TV at night, and does not want to hear what the village is doing this week.
Yeah, right. Yes. Yeah.
Because there's more of those than there are of the naysayers.
Sure. And that's true of any community, right? Most of the
Right,
people,
sure. They just want to live their lives.
Yep. That's why
And they don't
they're
want to pay a lot in taxes. and-
Right. And
Because they're just trying to survive. And I
Right.
know.
And so, if you look 20 years down the road and say, okay, the Village of Amanda now has 1,200 people living in it, and there's 3 restaurants, and downtown's been redone, and it's really a cool place to hang out. And there's, apartment complex where a lot of people that live there go to work over at Jennifer Frill's place, right? And there's a little bit of energy, a little bit of buzz, and
Not a lot of crime,
no, right?
just good people
But
trying to just keep being.
There's money in the coffers, the schools are
Right.
healthy, the streets are paved, the fire department's there on time. You know, when you flush your toilet, it goes away. When you put water in your cup, it tastes good. And all of that is, you know, what I see when I look at what could happen here.
So that's going to be the biggest challenge, is conveying that vision to everyone involved.
Yeah, and even when you do that, some people won't want that, right? And that's okay. When growth occurs, you can either stick your head in the sand and hope it doesn't happen to you, or you can try to take advantage of it, right? And so what we're suggesting as we go around the county is do the latter, right? Take advantage of it. You know, we talk about the two things we really want to do with this land use plan is protect the taxpayers and protect the land, right? Protecting the taxpayer means that when new development comes in, they're paying for their own infrastructure, and there are tax overlays that allow you to generate revenue to take care of all the other things that need to be done without putting more burden on the current people.
Right.
Protecting the land means that you build, you know, a 20-unit apartment complex on, you know, 5 acres, not 20 homes on every, you know, 1 on every 2 acres. You're taking up 5 acres instead of 100. You're protecting 95 acres of farmland, right? So, you know, it's when you get the general public that is not involved in these kinds of conversation and at this level or at this depth, it is a challenge. And sometimes, you know, you got to do what's right and explain it the best you can, and then let the chips fall where they may. And that's, you know, listen, it would have been a lot easier for me not to ask all these people to come out, you know, 25 times and, you know, the last month, the next month, and the month after, and not do any of this, right? Because we're taking some shots, but it's the right thing to do. And that's what we were elected to do the right thing, right? So sometimes it sucks, but you're going to do it.
I really appreciate everyone coming here tonight.
I
didn't
hope
say
you
that
guys are all
That was
taking
a-
time
yes.
off tomorrow,
Yes.
Friday, probably the last nice day we've got.
I think we're all receptive to that slow and safe growth. Definitely.
Nobody wants to flip 500 homes into $1 million.
Right, definitely. With the land protection, you know, the lagoons it just keeps coming back to me, the lagoons and the water treatment. I loved your idea of the water treatment plant at the space where the lagoons
backup
would
facility.
be.
Yeah, redundant facility. I mean, but
Yeah, slow growth, we welcome people here. Like I was welcomed with open arms when I came here from the Columbus. So I think that it would be a great way to bring revenue and revitalize and keep things safe for our land and for our people that have been here for decades. They're receptive to greeting people. I think they're just, you know, not as receptive to the idea of like overburdening our village and bringing so many people from Columbus. You know, there's those little stereotypes that I've heard from people, but like Heather said, it's the future. It's going to happen. But growth is going to happen. People
Right.
do need a place to live and
Well,
go to school and go to work.
and when we talked last time, we talked about there's really no place when, you know, someone reaches a point in their life where they don't want to continue to live in the home that they've had for the last 20 or 30 years, right? They need assistance, right?
Mhm.
And right now, the only place for them to go, they have to go to Lancaster or Pickerington or Circleville or Columbus, right? So they're now 30 minutes away somewhere. And that disconnects them from their lifestyle here, perhaps their family here, their grandkids that are playing ball, all that stuff. We talked about the idea that as kids get through high school and want to go to work, well, we got jobs right here, but are they going to want to live at home with mom and dad?
Right.
if
So
we
right
had-
now, they don't have much of a choice.
That's right, that's the point, right? So if we had, small apartment complex for them to start in, right? And then we had some workforce, 1,500 square foot homes that they could grow into, right? And then you've got a subdivision with the family homes, right? The 2,400 square foot homes. And,
Like that.
and you've got a school system that people want to have their kids in. That to me is a story that makes sense for the people that live here today, right? Because they want a place close by to grow into when they age out of their home. They want a place for their kids to live nearby when they are, supposed to be out on their own. And they want, I would think, a place for all those families to grow into, as they continue to mature. So there's some people that you're never going to convince, but when you paint that picture and you do it in a way that, we're not going to impact your taxes, we're going to improve the water system, we're going to improve the sewer system,
Yes.
we're going to help the schools, we're going to take care of the fire department. I mean, if you can do all that, it's pretty hard to argue that, oh, you guys are, horrible, right? I mean, you're trying to do the right thing.
I think everything you're saying is amazing. What I am struggling with is there's not one of us on council that I would feel are qualified to make some of these determinations of what growth in Amanda looks like.
Okay.
So in my day job, I've had some experience with things like campus partners on campus. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with the OU Ridges plan right now. They're trying to do a lot of these types of things at the ridges. Well, they've been able to bring in consultants and experts in the field. I am nowhere near an expert in growth or what's needed, or so how could we, or do you know of a way to engage some of these services that maybe can look and provide us with that expertise of, okay, well, we could do this or that, or this is what we think, and help with that development plan, because it really sounds like there's this amazing opportunity, right? And we're either one of two things is going to happen, and it's going to be up to the village. It's either not going to go anywhere, or it's going to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
and I'm not
So
qualified to say.
I'm a restaurant guy.
All right.
I don't know any of this stuff either. All these guys back here, they're the ones that are teaching me this stuff. So Anthony, why don't you come up here and sit down with me for a minute, if you would, please.
That's a big thing. I have some handouts for you guys so you don't have to
Thank you.
kind of write all the notes.
Oh,
Kind of
thanks.
explains all the different programs and everything going over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go.
So Anthony's,
Wonderful.
Yes,
Our-
this is part of the notes that I wrote down.
Yeah, so there you go.
Yes.
Sorry, I should have probably handed those on.
Totally
earlier.
got that word wrong.
Anthony's part of our economic development team, and he's kind of been tasked with helping us through this whole process. He is our expert, if you will, on what he's put before you, right? And when you're ready to have the conversation about how do we do this, Anthony's going to be the guy that's going to come.
We would definitely, my part, me and my director, Rick Zabrek, our contacts info is on there. All these programs, when you're looking, when you have, whether it be residential, commercial development, we're here to help walk you guys through getting them all set up, because a lot of these are like state incentives, state programs, things like that. We can get you in contact with people in the state. We can work with you to help get this set up. That's kind of our job. So when it is time and when you have a clear vision of what you want to do, our department is there to help you out any way we can.
So let's talk about creating that clear vision, right? Because I hear you.
Yeah.
So we had a good conversation a month ago. We're having kind of the next step in that conversation tonight. I'm trying to think if it would make sense to have you and Vince just come down here for a couple hours one night, sit with the council, all of council
Mm-hmm.
and, kind of talk through what I'm laying out here, right? It makes sense to me, but it might not be what they see or what they want.
Yeah, we'd be happy to come down to one of your future meetings or a special meeting or whatever you're having on this and
I feel like the only time we can be firm and that we'll have a full staff maybe our stated meetings, which is the first Monday of the month
okay.
at 6:30.
With the
So I don't-
election coming up next month, there will be some changes.
It may be
and some
better
open
to wait,
seats as well, so.
Maybe better to wait till after all that is settled so we know who we're working with, I guess.
At least for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, yeah. We could come down and kind of get an idea of what you want. Are you looking more? I know you had mentioned downtown, so maybe some different programs that there's down. There are grants, things, different programs for downtown revitalization, things like that. Maybe we look into some of those and look at some examples of similar communities that have revitalized their downtown, things like that.
Or
Looking into
what we'd
residential
like to know
growth.
is how have they grown? Like I've seen, I've lived here my whole life. So I've seen the growth that like, say Lithopolis, that I use as an example, that they've gone through.
Yeah.
They have their own police department. They have a revitalized downtown. And so back when I was in high school, that was a full line of businesses, which has trimmed down quite a bit, but now it's more residential. They have some homes, they've added additional homes. And so I would like to see, and every village is growing. So I'd like to know what steps they took
Okay.
in the beginning to tackle the fact that they're growing. They're so close to Columbus, so they dealt with this 20 years ago.
Right. So, and there are case studies out there about
Right.
downtown revitalization. Most of them that I've read, I'm a little biased, but it starts with a sit-down restaurant.
Usually there's a central
We got that 2
tenant,
years ago.
someone that comes in and kind of sparks it. It's usually pretty difficult without that first tenant, that
Like a
first
meeting
business, that first business to kind of spark everything else. So that's usually a lot of, and Lithopolis, as you were talking about, their proximity
just
to
an example,
Columbus as
yeah.
well,
I know that
that's also just a natural
Well,
progression.
it seems like Canal Winchester just creeps closer and closer to Lithopolis, and they're becoming more of one place
Yeah.
than
Um,
their own individual place. And we've seen that happen in Pickerington over the last 40 years. So Pickerington is now just about Columbus. And it's hard to hold on. We want to hold on to our small town identity. And I think we'll have a better chance because we're not as close to Columbus, as close to Lancaster, Circleville. We could probably hold on to a lot of
also-
those small
Yeah,
towns.
it's also good that, as you said, you have a little bit more time in this area to get this planning and these ideas out now. Where you have time to figure out where you want some of these things to go before, 20 years, 30 years from now, when you have developers kind of snooping around everywhere all over the place, and then it can get out of control pretty fast if you don't really have everything locked down. So, as you said, it's good to have these conversations now here so we can get an idea of how we can kind of keep that small town feel while also having that controlled growth that you guys would like to see. So, as I said, our department is happy to help, and I could see after these elections, we could figure out one of the meetings that you guys are having and come down and kind of sit in on it and discuss what your vision is and maybe what some of the other similar villages have done.
About controlled growth, and you said your information was on here?
Yeah, it's on the
front page.
So it's way down at the bottom.
Oh,
of the
I
front,
see now,
yeah.
thank you.
So our next meeting is the day before the election. Everything is
We should,
normal.
we should
the
probably
normal
wait
route.
until after. I would say
But,
maybe after the election.
Would it be okay if we reach out to you?
Yeah, you
via
can,
email?
Yeah, that's
And
fine.
ask Carrie to maybe
You can
send you an
email.
email and we can set up a day and time.
Yeah. That's not a problem.
Is that all right? I'm not speaking out of turn.
Go right ahead.
That's 2 out of 3.
Make a
so I
plan.
guess- Yeah.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah, you're my new best friend, buddy.
I don't know about that. but
Yeah,
Can I suggest something?
Come on up,
maybe
Tom.
If I
Grab a
can
chair.
meet with your water, wastewater guy and, and go through what you have and then maybe kind of attend that meeting just for questions that the council may have on that,
I'm sure there'd be a lot of utility questions as well.
of where you're at and where we need to get to do whatever comes up. But if I can get in touch with him and
Do you have his contact information?
Sure, I can share it to you. He is going on vacation starting.
I'm gonna have time because it's not gonna be till after November anyway, so if we just hook up and know where your facilities lay out, you can look at what you have as far as water and see what's expandable there, and then know kind of from some of this stuff, okay, here's what this would look like size-wise for a wastewater plant, and just to give you some ideas of where you're going and what we need to do to get there.
Yes, and the president pro temp would be beneficial to be a part of that conversation because he had made a connection with a landowner near our lagoons that is willing to sell some of that land if we were to go in that direction that we had spoke about a few months ago. So. I'll
Well, but I
invite him
also, I think it'd be beneficial to let him come in with fresh eyes.
to-
With his
Yeah, I'd like to see, because
expertise,
when I was
think he'd
talking to
be
him,
able to-
it sounded like you have the wells and maybe, cross your fingers, the well capacity, but it was never set up to draw the water from there. So if you have the wells in, that gets you a long ways, and now you're just looking at kind of upgrading the facility a little bit
That'd be interesting.
to draw
Yeah.
more. So
That would be very
Because
interesting.
we
because
currently
there's-
have 3 wells, and we're working on replacing one of the casings.
I believe there are 5 wells.
Oh, are there 5?
But he only uses 3. But I could be
Maybe.
wrong. but-
that's what he was saying.
Okay.
So
And he rotates and turns one off for a couple weeks and tries to conserve that well by
Gotcha.
rotating. Yeah, it's a fairly new facility down there, so it will be interesting to see what, like he said, your fresh eyes on the usage. For sure. I like the idea of the slow, safe, steady growth. I like the idea of exploring more of the landowners that are receptive to a change now, whereas in 2020 they were not. And partnering with the township. I'm not crazy about commercial development. It's not up to me. More residential, but I understand it brings in money, and it's not up to me. I'm just
Yeah, I hear you.
spewing my 2 cents out there. I definitely appreciate this information. And appreciate everyone's time and
So, I think the most immediate thing is that potential commercial development, right? This rest of the stuff it's gonna be a little bit before people are banging on your door, build homes or apartments, and will come tomorrow. The other thing, it's relatively
it's gonna
urgent, right? So, it would be good for us to kind of flush that out on our end and then maybe bring you and the township and the developer into a room together to have a conversation.
Mhm. Yeah, the way you present things, it's welcoming. For instance, I wouldn't think about the elderly that need assistance and that would need a home because there's nothing available nearby. I would think as a person paying on my home, I would want to move over again, and I would be happy just to stay in my little home in Amanda. But I don't think about that when you may need assistance, and so there's a need that I hadn't thought of. So I really appreciate your perspectives.
Totally. And there's whenever someone moves out, someone else can move in, right? I mean, so that helps keep the population up, and yeah, it's, I mean, there's a lot of layers to the onion.
Right. Right.
So, so our immediate homework is to have a conversation with the developer that is interested and flesh that out a little bit, and then we'll reach back to you guys to have that conversation with the township. And then Anthony is going to coordinate with you on coming back, and he's going to let me know so I can try to be here as well. And Tony. And if you have the opportunity to continue to work on this, you know, I mean, I appreciate that this is one person's opinion, but if you can gather some
So that
consensus.
upcoming meeting, when we're kind of, if you could sort of add your ideas to that, when we kind of have a starting point of what everyone's looking at. You know, some things may change here if you talk to that developer beforehand or something like that. And you know, when these commercial developments come in, we want to make sure everyone benefits from it. You know, the township, the village, people can have their job closer.
Right.
You know, so just kind of some of these programs are designed to make sure sort of everybody gets a little bit of a benefit from these developments. So that's always something to keep in mind as well.
And that's kind of the message that we're taking out, right? Is that when we all work together and everybody can get something out of it, it's a much better outcome than Pickerington, right? Which is where I live, and you know, I've been there for 27 years now, and I've seen what happens when a township and a village just go at each other and compete and fight, and nobody wins. Right? We've got incredibly high taxes up there. Schools are always asking for more money. Fire departments are always asking because they didn't sit at a table like this and have a good conversation, because they just couldn't. But that's a good lesson for all of us to learn.
For sure.
So thank
For
you
sure.
for your time tonight. Is there any more questions or?
I think at this point, we just really need to wrap our head around what growth for Amanda looks like. And who's gonna make those decisions?
When it's appropriate, we can circle back and put a town hall meeting together.
I would personally like to do something like that sooner rather than later. And
Yeah,
and I don't mean in the next month or two. I mean, you know, before we, so I'm of the mindset that if the majority of the people in Amanda don't want to grow, then we don't grow.
yeah, and
If they do, then we do.
I think if you just ask them that question, you're going to get a lot of no's.
Sure,
I think
absolutely.
if you have taken the time to you know, kind of flesh out your ideas,
Right.
and spent time with Anthony and talked about the different financial tools that are available to you, and spent time with Tony talking about, you know, how your water and sewer treatment plants could expand, and you can paint a picture of, you know, this is a vision for Amanda, 2050. You'll get a different response. Maybe not the response you're looking for, but a different response than just, you know, going up there with a blank piece of paper, right?
Well, with the vision, also explaining the needs.
Yeah.
Where people, for instance, they might not think a natural disaster is going to happen here, or an active shooter, or a Columbia gas leak. Things, they just don't think it's going to happen in Amanda. And so being prepared and showing those needs to people, I think is going to be paramount.
And yes, so we can do that. And I just want to reemphasize that the county government is here to help. Right? We have, as you said, we have a lot of resources. We're not putting money on the table, but we've got a lot of really smart people working for us that, you know, our job is to help you figure out where you want to go and how to get there. So please don't hesitate to reach out and ask.
Nice. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate everyone's time,
Yeah, thanks for having us tonight.
for sure.
In and out in 50 minutes.
Yay.
Impressive.
All right, so I'll circle back.
I understand our
There.
homework and
Yep.
we'll definitely make sure to have another
Thank you
meeting.
all for coming.
Yes.
Yes.
thank
Yeah,
you.
wait, I forgot to ask this the other time, and I'm not gonna forget tonight. All of you here, do you have anything you wanted to add?
No, thank you very much for having us, and we're here to help.
Thank you so much for that.
Same.
Thank you.
Jen?
That was gonna be my question.
All right.
Thought I lost my car keys, sorry about that.
All right, thank you all again for,
Thank you
sir.
so much.
All right,
Ma'am, did you have any questions before that?
No, just listening.
Linda, you live in township, right?
Yeah.
And so that's, do you have concerns that you want to express or anything?
No,
Okay.
I'm just here to learn.
I'm glad that you're here. Thank you. We want to make sure that people are aware of what is being discussed. That's why we also have the YouTube channel so that people can see or hear what's being discussed if they can't make it to the meetings. So thank you for being here.
all right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Feel free to
I am
reach
so
out.
much impressed
Now,
with
so
that.
as soon as-
Yeah, isn't she
Oh,
cool?
I just
So,
love
she wanted a video.
determination.
Yeah.
She wants to include diversity in the